layering floral dies are perfect to use to create stunning, effortless florals with a few simple techniques. Today I'm using it with a mixed media canvas to create some inspiration for a card. I did this recently with the Altenew Craft-a-Flower, and I'll link to the video here if you're interested in seeing that. But today I'm using the new Altenew Craft-a-Flower Buttercup, and I'm creating this beautiful, stunning, vibrant canvas. If you stick around to the end of the video, you'll catch a glimpse of a card that was inspired by this mixed media piece, showing how easy it is to turn inspiration from a mixed media piece into a card. Hi, I'm Verity and welcome to my channel, Pretty Little Button, where I make paper crafting tutorials for the everyday crafter. So this is part of the Altenew Craft-a-Flower Buttercup blog hop. I'll give details about this later on in the video, as there is a giveaway going on as well. So I've got a canvas here which measures 5 inches by 7 inches, so you could easily replicate this on a card that size. And I am just adding some blue acrylic paints to the canvas and then using a flat brush to paint this across in sweeping motions. Started off with a light colour and I've gone to about a third of the way up because I do want to add some green to the bottom later. I've used a darker blue at the top, and then as I come down from that dark blue, I'm just pulling it into the lighter blue to blend it. So obviously think about this when you're coming to make card making, you can easily create a blended sky in this manner. Now I will list the colours of the paints that I used over on my blog, so if you're interested in knowing the exact blues I use. I use my heat gun just to dry that off because I want to add some green colour to the bottom, and I don't want that to blend with the blue, and because you'll start to get a mixture of colour and I want a little bit more definition. Again, I will list the greens that I use over on my blog if you're interested. I've got a reusable palette to one side and I've just added them on there so I can use them and pick up colours as I want to. Now I started off using a bit of a flicking motion but then decided just paint it all one colour and then I can build up the layers. So I do add a bit of colour on, but I'm going backwards and forwards in a sweeping motion. I do go up where the horizon line is just so that I've not left with any white space, because obviously you don't get necessarily that white area when you look at your horizon line. And then I'm using a flicking motion to flick the colour up into the sky just to start building up the texture of like a grassy background. Because I want to add layers of colours, I use my heat gun to dry off the layers in between because I don't want to blend it too much. If I allow the colours to stay wet, the greens will start to blend and you're not going to get that definition you want. Now bear in mind I will be putting die cuts over this, so it doesn't have to be neat, it doesn't have to be perfect. You just wanting to give that impression of like a meadow. So when we pop the die cuts on the top, you've got that sort of setting for the die cuts. I go in with a bit more darker green because I just want to give a little bit more definition and interest and depth. So it's not completely one layer. And this really just works really well. So I like to, as I say, dry off in between the colours just to make sure I get a decent blend. Now I have sped this up because I do a lot of layering with the colours, and all you need to do is just play about with it, and until you're happy with what the background can look like, you'll know when to stop. Okay, so it's now time to create with the Craft-a-Flower Buttercup. So I've die cut the Craft-a-Flower Buttercup out of white cardstock and I'm going to colour the flower in using my ink pads. I have used a selection of Catherine Pooler inks, but you can use any inks you have to hand. I'm just using this because they're really great at transferring ink quite quickly and smooshing them down. So I've done the main layer in Orange Twist. Now I kind of built mine up a little bit differently, and you usually go for the big layer to be the lightest and then you build up from the lightest to the darkest, but I went the opposite way with this and I think it still works well. It just shows that you can play about with your die cuts. For the yellow I then used chiffon, and then for the greens I've used Lime Ricky, Deck the Halls and a variety of different greens. Again, I'll list all the colours that I used over on my blog as well as in the description box below. I have just adhered all the die cuts to a piece of scrap card with some repositional tape, and that just keeps them in place as I'm smooshing my ink pad down. And I have used the Altenew silicone mat underneath because this holds that strip of cardstock quite well, that it doesn't move about too much as I'm pressing the ink pads down. Now, to layer these up, they're really easy and it's really simple. Just add a bit of glue to the back and then you can really see where all the layers align. With the packaging that comes along with the Altenew Craft-a-Flower Buttercup, there is a layering guide on there, but if you happen to lose that, just go and check out Altenew's website. You'll be able to find a layering guide on there as well. Even the small little fiddly sort of small parts of the flower are really easy to line up and you get a beautiful looking flower at the end. There were a couple of them that unfortunately I got an inky fingerprint on, a bit of green on some of the yellow, but I got one that was perfect and I was able to hide the mistakes up with some great positioning of the flowers later. So as you can see, I just played around with the position, but I wanted to give a bit more interest so they're not completely flat. Now I do a bit of foam mounting. Some of them are completely flat on the card, some of them added with foam pads. Even with the leaf die cuts, I played about tearing them up and changing the size of them and repositioning them and placing things over the top. So the one that has the leaf that goes with the actual flower, the flower sits on, I cut off the stem because of the position. I didn't want it in that position. I cut it up and then I hid that break with another die cut and it worked really well. So I kind of went for a cluster of two and then one on its own, creating a bit of a triangle across the canvas piece. And then I used some of the smaller buds just to embellish and decorate around the floral piece. Now, as I mentioned, this is part of an Altenew blog hop to celebrate the release of the Craft-a-Flower Buttercup. If you're watching this on my YouTube channel, do make sure you check out my blog. There'll be full details about the hop and the giveaway over there. And you'll need to comment on my blog for your chance to win. The next stop on the hop will also be on my blog. As part of the hop, they are celebrating with a giveaway and there are $200 in total in prizes. To enter, just leave a comment along the hop and you could be one of the 2 lucky winners that might get a $50 gift card or one of the 5 winners that get a $20 gift card. Altenew do announce their winners over on their Altenew's winners page, so make sure you check that out. So once I had assembled all of the pieces and adhered them down, I then just used a few sort of jewel drop just to embellish the canvas piece. As I mentioned, I used this as some inspiration as well and I turned it into a card and I love how it turned out. I created an ink blended background and I used the die cuts in a really similar way. If you follow me on Instagram, you will see a Instagram reels on how I created this shortly coming up, so do make sure you check out my social media. If you're new here, why not think about subscribing and hitting that bell icon to be notified when my next video is up. Until next time, happy crafting!